cat, she's lining up a scene. Coffee cup, cat's tail, dancing in the steam. Every little click spins a brand new theme. Mrs. Right, that's right.
And hello, welcome to the Mrs. Right podcast. I am very, very pleased to introduce you today to Babs Rudlin, who is the author of Finding Wildfire. Now, what's wonderful about Babs is that she is at the very beginning of her authoring journey. And so many of us who are aspiring authors will be interested and intrigued to learn what she's learnt so far about the journey. Babs, hello, welcome to the Mrs. Right podcast. So thrilled to have you with us.
Hello there. Yes, it's very exciting. This is my first podcast as an author, and as with everything that I'm experiencing as a first, it is equally exciting, thrilling, and terrifying.
It really is a roller coaster, isn't it? Babs, before we go any further into learning about your book and what you've learnt as an author so far, I would really like to understand a little bit more about the woman behind the book. So when you started to develop a love for books, for reading, and then how that morphed into your desire to write. Tell me your once upon a time story.
Okay, so I'm going to come out of this looking so nerdy, it's untrue. But here we go. I apparently, according to my parents, was an incredibly precocious child. And at 3, I stormed into the bedroom one morning demanding to be taught to read. I wanted to read at 3. And so they then took it upon themselves to help me learn to read. And from that point on, I was never without something in my hand. I was always reading something. Cereal packets if books were not available. I read the Narnia series when I was probably 7. I just was reading all the books. I raced through all of the school literature that you have to read and then had free rein in the library, which was wonderful. I could pick and choose whatever I wanted to read. Fantasy was always up there. As long as I can remember, there is always at least one book with me at any given time. So what will fit neatly into my bag is the book that I'll take with me to read out and about at the coffee shop or on a train. There's just been a lot of reading. I just have an eclectic mix. I will read anything pretty much. I didn't read or hear my first spice until I was in my late 40s, early 50s. And that was accidental in an audiobook in the car. Luckily, I was alone.
Thank goodness.
But it was a shock.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Literally, there'll be loads of people who can relate. I'm one of them. Read everything on my parents' bookshelves as a child. And I remember my first foray into romance being my grandma coming over with a carrier bag full of Mills and Boons and dumping them on me.
Yes.
And me being like, oh, what's all this about? And just being like I was reading 1 or 2 a day because they're not very long. Just completely swept away with this Mills and Boon romance. But what about the sort of the key influences that really shape the way that you write, do you think? Who would you pin that on when you think about the writers that you enjoy reading?
This is a massive ego thing, but I would love to think that I have some of the humour of Terry Pratchett. I do like the way that he talks to the reader. I actually am writing a second novel at the moment, and I put in a couple of footnotes already, which I'm very proud of. If you're a Pratchett reader, you'll know what I mean. But that's a big set of shoes to fill. So I'm not even going to say that I am at that level, but he certainly had an impact on the way that I write and how I enjoy telling stories. And one of the things I've found is having written so much this year. So I've written it's a 102,000 word novel, which is Finding Wildfire. I've written short stories, I entered competitions and contests, and I've been writing weekly flash fiction. So when I'm reading that through, my voice is darker than I would have thought it would be. But I quite clearly have a voice, because even as I'm reading it through, I can recognise they are written by the same person. So even though I've got some thriller in there, some tech horror, some sci-fi, there's a little bit of everything thrown into the mix. you can see that it is all written by the same person. It's all written by me. Even when
Yeah.
I've switched from third person, which is how I read all my books when I was younger, to having a short story written in first person, that I found quite exciting, to write in a completely different style that was very alien to me in terms of from first person perspective. But it is still my voice. The descriptions are still the descriptions that I would have of the scenarios, of the characters, of how they interact, even though the point of view is different.
So that brings me to my next question, actually, which is how you go from being a complete, to use your word back at you, nerdy bookworm,
Yes.
to being a writer. So where did that start? With short stories and competitions, or straight into the novel?
In this instance, I went straight into the novel. I remember when I was back at school, like a million years ago, and we had it was just a writing contest in the classroom. I think it was my first year. I was 11, and we were in English, and we just had half an hour to write a story, a short story. And I remember I loved it so much. And I even remember what the story was about. It was about a hidden passage. And I didn't take that as being a passage that you open a door and walk through. This was a passage that was hidden in a book, because my brain was twisty even then. And I liked to play with words even when I was 11, and I got an A+ for it. And I just remember enjoying it so much. And then school happened, and life happened, and work happened, and children happened, and I just never had the time. And my tragic story is that my husband was made redundant. I was made redundant. I had time on my hands. So it's like, okay, well, while I'm applying for other jobs, I'll write a book. Why not? Give it a go. I've got the time. I can touch type, so it shouldn't take me too long. And so I cracked on and wrote a novel, which is still mind-blowing that I just sat down and wrote a novel, which I didn't just sit down and write a novel. I sketched and scribbled and crossed out and edited and re-edited and backspaced like a million times, but I still wrote a novel.
Yeah, and let's just take a moment to celebrate that, because there are so many people in the world who want to write. There are lots and lots of aspiring authors out there. But the percentage of people that actually finish a book, loads of people start, but the percentage of people who finish is pretty slim. So to what would you attribute getting to the end and doing the 102,000 words? How long did it take, and why this time did that happen for you?
Okay, again, this is going to come across as tragic backstory, and I'm really sorry. I started writing because I was talking with my mum. We were having discussions. We brainstormed the whole concept. We started working on some characters and what the magic system would be. And we started having weekly coffees. We were just finding our routine. And then unfortunately, she passed really quickly. And so I had got, I don't know, 10,000 words in at that point. And then I poured everything, my grief, my anger, everything went into the keyboard. And so I just powered through, because it was cathartic. It would help me actually process what was happening. Some very emotional moments within the story, which have nothing to do with Mum, but they are very powerfully emotional. I made my editor cry. I made me cry. My beta readers cry. So I apologise, but there are feelings in this book. And so I completed it because this was for Mum. It was for me and for Mum. And so that really helped just power on through. I think I probably would have finished the book regardless, but I got through it a lot quicker because of the amount of stuff that just went straight into the keyboard. And it was like my fingers were on fire. I was just typing like a woman possessed. So that is what really pushed me over that finish line. I started writing in September. I finished the first draft by the end of October.
That is astonishingly fast.
Yeah.
And I think, what I'm hearing, this is the reason I want to have these interviews, because we often will pick up a book and it'll capture us and it'll take us away on a journey. And we don't necessarily think about the person that's written the words or what might have been going on for them. But anybody who picks this book up now when they get to those really emotional bits, will know that this was a real outpouring of emotion and almost a therapy for you dealing with the grief of losing your mum. And that isn't something that I'm just going to use the AI phrase once and then I'm going to put it away. But AI cannot replicate human emotion in that way. And so that real outpouring and that use of writing as a therapy for yourself is something a lot of people will be able to relate to. So you've written the book. Let's go through this process. Now, let's talk about the book a little bit more. So we've learned a little bit more about you. You've got the words down on the page. What came next? You mentioned an editor. Did you hire a professional to edit your book?
I found the right person, but there was touch and go. There's a lot of, as a new author, I can only speak as a new author, not as an author that's already published, but you are deluged with crap. You are
It's
drowning.
so true.
Drowning in people saying, I want to promote your book. I've read your book. It's amazing. It touched my heart. And it's like, how? I haven't published anything. I love
It's
your
so
story.
true.
It's amazing. It's like, what story? I haven't shared it yet. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But as soon as you make yourself available to the world and acknowledge that you are an aspiring author, a debut author, then you are hit by droves of people trying to take money from you.
Yes.
I've had
Listeners,
cover.
beware. If you are going to put yourself out there as an author, you will be bombed with spam from people who say they've loved your book and actually they've never even read it. So just be wary. Yeah.
So,
but eventually you found the right person.
I did. I had a developmental editor because you go through various stages of editing. I'm sure you're aware of this. But as this was for fantasy and it was a huge amount of world building, I wanted to make sure that I hadn't got any major plot holes. So I spoke with a developmental editor. They worked on this over December and got me the response back. Bearing in mind, this was a 57 chapter long at this point document. I had 40 comments come back. I was devastated because either
40
I am
comments.
brilliant,
I had 14 pages.
Either I am brilliant as an author, which I highly doubt, as this is my debut novel, or I'd just been horrifically ripped off.
No.
So yeah, that was not good. But I did eventually find Rachel, and she is amazing, absolutely amazing editor. On my Instagram, I've been sharing some what you learn from your editor posts. I've done a couple of those already, and I've learned so much, so much. And she's really kind with the way that she points things out, and she doesn't get stressed. She just tells you the facts, and then you make your own decisions. Again, just because an editor tells you something, as an author, you don't have to do the thing. If they haven't quite understood what you were trying to get across to your reader, then obviously you need to rework it somehow. But if they think that it's A, but actually what you're trying to say is B, then you just need to find a better way of communicating B, not just go, oh, okay, I have to accept whatever they've said.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important to read through and consider the feedback that you're getting from anybody, whether that's beta readers, developmental editors, line editors, whoever. You still know what your story should be telling people or what you want your story to convey, and don't let that get lost with all the advice that you're getting from other people, is what I would say anyway.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I also hired a developmental editor and got my 14-page report of things that I needed to change. Some of it was very positive and some of it smarted a bit because I loved what I'd done. But once I'd made the changes and I read the book again, it was like night and day. It made so much more sense. The flow was so much better and it was worth every penny. So I think I probably spent about £1,100 on my developmental editor, just in case you're listening in and you're thinking about being a DIY author, an indie author. You can expect to pay between £800 and £1,500 for a developmental editor. honestly, it's got to be done. I think that and professional book cover design are the two non-negotiables. But let's talk about beta readers, because for those who don't know the industry or the way that things work, first you write the book, then you get your developmental editor, and then we've got beta readers and we've got ARC readers. So tell us what an beta reader is and how you go about using that part of the process.
Again, I didn't have the best response with beta readers. This could be a free service, it could be a swap service between two authors, or it could be something that you're paying for. I didn't have the budget to be able to pay, so I did a swap with an author. However, for me or for us, it didn't work. So we decided to part ways, and it was and that's what we did. So that's fine. So you
Yeah.
just need to think about what you're looking for and how you find someone who has read what you're writing. I could never beta read for somebody who is a romance author. I don't have enough experience reading that. I don't write it. I'll just sit there getting embarrassed whilst thoroughly enjoying the book. And that's really not what you need from a beta reader if you are a romance writer.
No.
You know, I could do an arc. I have done arcs for several romance books, romantasy and romance, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being arc readers for them, because I'm not telling you how to write. I'm telling you how, as an arc reader, I feel.
Yeah.
Did it connect? Did it hit all those wonderful emotional high notes, top notes, and did it make me cry? Could I put the book down when I went to bed at night? No, I carried on reading. I sent the author an email at 2 o'clock in the morning saying how amazing it was. So what you should be getting from a beta reader is more constructive feedback on, is there a plot hole? Does this make sense? Is this character behaving consistently throughout the story, or have they suddenly, without a character arc, changed direction for no real reason that's apparent to the reader? So they're giving you a more, in theory, they're giving you a more detailed review just personally for you. It's not a public thing. Nobody else gets to see what their feedback is unless you as an author choose to share their feedback. You know, if it's fabulous, then you would share it. You know, my beta reader said blah, 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 blah. But it's not actually intended to be a publicly seen document. It's between you and the beta reader, so that you can then amend your writing if there's a big hiccup, if there's a disconnect somewhere. One of the things that I did see, which is have no more than 5 beta readers, because you'll have so much conflicting feedback, you won't actually be able to use any of it in a meaningful way. So be careful with how you select a beta reader. And then again, consider the feedback and don't just do a knee-jerk reaction and change everything. Only change what will help your story become stronger.
Great point. My beta readers were all romance readers, so they were my audience, and their feedback was so useful, and it was mostly grammatical, spelling mistakes. So I did the whole beta reader thing, and that was so useful, and I had no idea I was so bad at grammar. I mean, I'm a writer, for goodness sake, and I've got, qualifications in the use of the English language and English literature at school and at college. And yet, so many mistakes, because when you're writing, it flies off the end of your fingers and you're not thinking about grammar and punctuation. You're just getting the story on the page. So one of the things I heard very early in my writing that stuck with me forever is the first draft is not the book. It is just the first draft. So post beta reader, I then had something that I could actually put out and put onto the shelves, but I never did the ARC reader thing. What about you? Where are you with that now?
So I've got an ARC sign-up form at the moment. It's going to be running through until the book launches. So it's going to be available for people to sign up to until the end of July. The book launches on the 30th of July. The first batch of ARC ebooks will be going out first week of June. Again, terrifying, but exciting. I have a book I'm really proud of and I want people to read it. I want to see what their reactions are going to be. But so I have not a huge amount of people signed up yet. However, I have my monthly newsletter. Get a newsletter. Seriously.
Is that good advice?
Newsletter. I would advise
Get
anybody.
a newsletter.
The reason being it's one of the few things you control. If TikTok decide to ban you, if your account is cancelled on Instagram, the only way you can connect to people is through your website, is through your newsletter. If you don't have a mailing list or a newsletter, you can't connect to anybody anymore because you've just had
Okay.
all of that communication cut away from underneath you.
So
I
how do
spend a
you
month.
get people to sign up to your newsletter? So how does it work? I don't understand the technical, mechanical aspects of this at all, but
Okay.
I am learning from you, as this is like a live coaching session right now, ladies and gentlemen. Get a newsletter. Babs, tell us, how do we do that?
Okay, so what I've done, I've got a website, and on there I have you can sign up to the newsletter, just so that that's there by default. I have
Yeah.
also created a couple of, they're called reader magnets, but I have a short story that I give away for free if you want to join my newsletter. You could buy it for 99p in my shop if you really like. If you don't want
Reader
to,
magnets. Love that.
yes, if you don't want to sign up to the newsletter, it's a once a month newsletter, so
Once a month. Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
drown out your mailbox.
Yeah.
But also, I have joined BookFunnel because that's who I'm using to distribute the ARC copies of my book, and I have participated in 2 BookFunnel group giveaways. So different authors who have a common topic, a fantasy topic, a no spice. I write no spice. A no spice giveaway, for example. And so 7 or 8 newsletters will all feature this same page on the BookFunnel site. And readers of those newsletters can go and download whatever they want, and then they join a new author's mailing list as they download their book. As with any mailing list, you can download it and then cancel and go your merry way. But my mailing list has grown 7-fold since taking part in just 2 of these giveaways, and I've got another 3 that are going to be running over the next month and a half before the book goes live. And then everybody that's on my mailing list, I will be giving them the opportunity to become an ARC reader. So I am
Oh,
hoping
that's
that
amazing.
ARC
Yeah.
reading numbers will be boosted from those people who have read a sample of my work, who are part of the newsletter, and will then hopefully want to read more. And then they can get
Right.
a free copy of
Thanks,
the book.
Babs. I shall be doing both of those things. I shall be joining BookFunnel, which I'd never heard of, so thank you for that top tip. And I shall be I've got a website, so I can get a newsletter organised, and then I can encourage people to sign up to my monthly. I like monthly because I hate just getting bombarded with. So
Yeah.
what do you put in your newsletter? What goes in there?
So I talk about the fact that we've got an ARC coming up. I talk about the publishing date. Again, this has been a very, May was a good month. It was my birthday month, and I won 2 competitions. I came third in one
Yeah, I
writing
saw that
contest. I
on
came
Threads.
first
Congrats.
in another, which was so
Amazing.
exciting.
Whoop, whoop,
So
whoop.
exciting. So those are the things that you can then talk about in your newsletter. So in theory, whilst my debut novel is coming out on the 30th of July, I will actually be a published author on the 31st of May, when the Ping anthology, which is the contest that I won, actually goes live. The ebook is already available, but the paperback actually launches on the 31st. So I will be in print, not just digitally. I shall be in print from the 31st of May.
And how long is the average newsletter?
It depends on what I have to talk about, but generally it's not a long thing.
Like an A4
You've got to remember, most people are going to be reading these on their. This is my phone hand. Sorry, I haven't.
For those of you listening and not watching this podcast, Babs is showing us her phone hand.
So most people scroll on their phone. So keep that in mind when you're writing an email.
So not too much.
To people. So you don't want it to be too much, but have links and double check that your links work. Have links to your website. Have links to whatever the giveaway is. Have links to where they can buy whatever it is that you're looking to sell, and give a very clear call to action. Please sign up to the ARC. Here is the link. Go. Make sure that people know what you want them to do. They can read the rest of the email, but the key thing that you want them to action should be very, very clear, should be very, very obvious. And there's loads of other freebies and good stuff that you're sharing. It could be, as I said before, I have weekly flash fiction, so I would have links to whatever new flash fiction stories I've written. So it's just so that I'm giving people stuff of substance rather than just saying,
Love it.
buy my stuff, buy my stuff. This month, buy my stuff. It's, it's more than that.
Yeah, totally. All right, this is really super helpful. So if you're listening and you're an aspiring writer or a writer, there's some very, very, very top tips. I am going to summarize. Write the book. That's the easy part. Then get it edited by a developmental editor. Pay for it. It's worth it. Then get it out to beta readers who will pick up all of your spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, and anything else that you've overlooked. Then you need to sign up your ARC readers. And ARC is Advanced Reader Copy, for those of you who don't know. And these people should read your book, review it, publicize it on their channels, and start to get some excitement building for your book. Pre-order is the next thing. So getting yourself a publication date and pre-orders is massively important. I didn't do it. I had no idea. I've only learned all this stuff since I've been Mrs. Writing. But if you've got a future publication date, then you need to get your ARC readers to create some fuss and then have your date in the ready to go and get people to pre-order. If you get people to pre-order and they get all of the books suddenly are sold on the first day, you shoot up the rankings and the algorithm pushes more people your way. So those of you who are at the stage that Babs is at, or perhaps not even this far along, those would be our top tips for getting your book on people's shelves. Now it's time to talk about the book itself. Babs, tell us about your book. Tell us about your book. What are we going to experience when we read Finding Wildfire?
Okay. I actually wrote a blurb, which was the most painful and the hardest thing that I have ever written in my life. Writing the actual novel was so much easier than writing the blurb. So we're in the world of Ascendia. It is a medieval timeline. It is epic fantasy. We have magic systems that are driven and controlled by gods, but the gods have a very, very backseat position in this first book. Because our protagonists don't understand where their power has come from. They think that it is one thing. It isn't. They have no understanding of the world at large. They live in a very small village. It's isolated. It's been cut off. Someone has made that decision very deliberately. And so this little family is running their village, and they know that they have these elemental powers. Their emotions show through their hair. Their hair is black and white. It is hair that mirrors their familiars. So they have dogs. There's a little schnauzer. We have an Irish wolfhound. We have Dalmatian, and we have I was going to say sheepdog, but that's not actually the breed's name.
Collie? Say
a
collie?
We have a short-haired border collie. Yes. The dog I had as a child, and I'm just like, it's a sheepdog. No, that is not the official breed name. Sheepdog. And all this pack, they actually have a telepathic bond, and they should have a telepathic bond with their human, but they don't, because none of the official rituals that the rest of the world would know of have happened. So their magic has sort of half started and not really got to where it needs to get to. So it's not contained, it's not controlled. It is very much wildfire. It is it's out of control. It is being stolen by one of the members of the household who is very controlling. And this is the story of 3 generations of women who are escaping from this controlling atmosphere, and they are no longer going to be bound by fear. They are going to work together and escape and find their own way in the world. And for one of them, this is a devastating process, because she's been trapped by fear for her entire life. She's in a 80s, and fear has ruled everything that she has ever done. We have the middle generation who have tried to do the best for the family. They've tried to protect the kids. They've tried, every choice they've made has been to protect somebody else, but it's always been the wrong choice. And so now we're in a situation where before the youngest woman in the family and her brother, who is just a punching bag for his uncle, before they are trapped in the same nightmare, then they have to do something. And that is the catalyst to move things forward. So they're all trying to protect each other in their own way. And this is how that relationship between all of them progresses. So there's a lot of sibling relationships in this book, lots of exploring of how, you're my favorite human, but oh my God, you're annoying, and how that plays out for multiple generations. And it's also a very, one of the lines that I loved that I wrote was, the only cage that matters is the one that you believe is locked. Because you can't let fear control your entire life. And that is
it sounds
key
incredible.
message.
So your characters sound very richly drawn. Did you do characterization work before you started writing, or did they just develop as you wrote?
In this instance, they developed as I wrote. However, I no longer write in that way. So even for my short stories, I always create a character outline for everybody. Even my side characters have a full backstory. I understand what makes them tick, what they like, what they don't like, what they're scared of, what their goals are, because then everybody that you interact with is a fully rounded character. They have their whole life. In the same way that you can walk to the market and you'll say hello to various people as you go to the market. They've all got their own lives. They have their own drivers and motivations.
So true.
And they might say hello to you, but they're not just a cardboard cutout that you're walking past and waving at, because that's the polite thing to do. And so for me, that realism needs to come across in my stories. So I don't want there to be any cardboard cutout feelings about any of this. This is, for me, it needs to be a very immersive world. When I read, I am in the book. People don't bother talking to me. They know, okay, Mum's reading, just forget it. It's just, don't even talk to her. She won't hear you. She's in that place, wherever that place happens to be. And so I wanted to write in a way that would encourage my readers to experience that. They experience it wholeheartedly. They are in the book. They're in the moment. You've got sounds, you've got smells, you've got feelings. What is actually happening? Can you smell the onions that are cooking over there on the other side of the market as you're walking through? All of that is very important to me. And so that's in there. So much so that my editor was saying, yes, we can take this out. We can take this out. And there's even one comment that says, beautifully described location and just the right length. So I was like, yes, I got it. I finally got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important.
And I love how passionately you're describing your book and how much you clearly love every character in it and every nuance of the story that you've written. And anybody that's listening to this that isn't intrigued and isn't interested in getting into that world and learning more about these characters, these multi-layered characters, multi-generational, and there'll be a lot of people that can relate to the statement about the only cage that matters is the one that you think is locked. I've misquoted you, but that general feeling about how we can get locked in fear and that can prevent us from doing the things that we want to do. Really, really relatable. And you've woven it into this fantastical story. So thank you for sharing information about your book. What's great is that this podcast will go out before the deadline for ARC readers. So if there are others who are interested, all of your contact, your socials, your website, etc., will all be in the bio for this podcast. So you can easily track Babs down if you're interested in being an ARC reader for her. I've got a couple of final questions to ask you as we start to roll towards the end of our conversation. And the first one is about why you chose the indie route rather than querying agents and going for the trad publishing route?
Okay, that actually is it's down for two reasons. One, I'm very impatient. I like to get things done. I like to get things moving. And if you're going down the trad route, you will have to wait for somebody to want to represent you. Then you will have to go through and do some more editing. Then you will need to wait whilst your amazing agent who loved your book and loves you and has signed you then has to go and sell that book to a publishing house. So
Yeah.
that whole process could take years. And then you've got to wait for the publishing house to find a space in their publishing schedule to slot your book into. So you're talking maybe 2 years before what you've written actually finds readers who are going to put eyes on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the patience for that. Plus,
Yeah.
I have been applying or had been applying for jobs and not getting the jobs was disheartening. So to then not have people want to read my book and tell me, no, I'm not going to represent you. I don't want to be your agent. I couldn't take the double whammy. However, I have run my own business in the past, so I know how to do certain aspects. I can build a website, I can do the newsletters, I can do social media to a degree. I'm not saying I'm the world's best at any of those things, but I can do it well enough to have confidence that I can launch a book. And then I can do that on my own terms. So I get to pick my cover art, which if you are agented and you have a publishing house, they control all that. They'll decide on your title. They will decide on your artwork. They will decide on so many things. And I didn't want to do that. This book meant so much to me. I didn't want it to be represented in a way that wasn't true to what I was trying to do. So for quite a few reasons, I decided to go down the indie route. Now, I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. This is not an easy path. I don't think there is such a thing as an easy path if you are an author. Each path is different and difficult and hard in its own way. So I just decided to go the route that would give me the most creative control. And then if I fall on my face, that's on me. But I am hoping very much that there will be others who love my characters. There will be others who love the world that I've created and the humour, the snark from the phoenix who considers himself an emperor and therefore you have to come up to his standards, and I'm sorry but this just isn't cutting it, and all those kind of things. We have a monster who is the most maternal caring creature that I have ever seen or ever read about. We have a chimera who is monstrous but is not a monster, and so there's all sorts of different aspects, and I want to make sure that they are being represented the right way for my story.
Yeah, absolutely. You've breathed life into these characters and you want to make sure that they are taken care of as they leave you and go into the world to be independent. Goodness me.
Exactly.
Okay. What is the one single piece of advice you would give to somebody that might be listening to this podcast and have an idea for a story in their head and be thinking about whether or not to follow this path to authorship?
I would say that unless you are very, very lucky, don't rely on feedback from your family about what you're writing or your idea. They will either poo-poo it and dismiss it because they think that it's dangerous, it's going to lead to nothing, you don't make any money doing that, why would you want to? Or they will hype you up without really having any understanding of what it means. And it could be that you've written something that's absolute trash in that 30 seconds of you having this idea. I've written trash. I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't apply to myself. But if you've got someone who's going to say, oh, that's amazing, and then you spend 6 months or more writing this idea into something because your mum told you that it's the best thing ever, then that's not doing you any favours. What you need to do, I would suggest, is talk to random strangers in the coffee shop, the hairdressers, people who have no no skin in the game. They've got nothing to win by saying something to you about, oh, that sounds really good. Charity shop. I've talked about the book. I've talked about the story. I've talked about the characters and the plot in charity shops, in coffee shops with complete strangers, at the hairdressers. I do loads of writing at the hairdressers. Notebook out, pen in hand, scribble away while I'm waiting for my roots to do their thing. And so much gets written in the hairdressers. And now I actually sold one of my first giveaway novels. 99p1 I sold to somebody in the hairdressers, and they are all so excited. They cannot wait for me to go in there. Every time I go in there, it's like, what's happening with the book? Where are you at? Do you have an actual copy yet? So when you find people that have no reason to tell you that it's a good story, and they're telling you it's a good story, or they're excited about the characters, or they're like, ooh, I don't like him, but I like him. Then you've got something. So I would say, whilst it would be fabulous to have family as being your cheerleaders and supporting you and bringing you drinks and leaving you alone, being quiet and not interrupting when you're typing, then, you know, that's wonderful. But I wouldn't take my very first thoughts or ideas to them unless you know that they are going to be cruelly honest with you. Because if you've got an idea and it's going to take you months and months and months to write that into reality, you want to make sure that you're doing it off of a good idea and not just something where someone's gone, yes, dear, it's lovely, go ahead with that. Because it's too much effort to expend on something that isn't true.
That's amazing advice. Amazing advice, because you're absolutely right. You will either have massive support and think that you're better than you are, or be told that you're not ever going to achieve anything and potentially not release your talent into the world. My last question for you is, what does success as an author mean to you? And has it changed over time?
For me, because I am looking at doing this for a career, it is not about a short-term win. For me, it is about connecting with my readers, finding people who love the characters and want to know more about those characters. In terms of success for this year, I have already had a successful year this year, regardless of how the debut launch goes. I won contests, which I wasn't expecting to happen. People have come back with the most amazing feedback and comments. Your story stayed with me is something which I'm hearing a lot from different people, completely different stories, which makes my heart so happy, because it means that I am getting that emotional connection with readers.
Yeah.
That connection is the success for me.
So those of you who are listening to this podcast who may never have heard of Babs Rudlin before, or of the Finding Wildfire book, you could be listening to the first podcast a famous author of the future ever gave, and you could be an early adopter and well ahead of the game and get yourself a copy of this book as soon as you possibly can, before it becomes so enormously huge that it's all over the place and it's on Netflix and everything, or Disney Plus, and you'll be like, yeah, I remember listening to Babs talking on a podcast way back in 2026. I've been a fan of hers for years. That's what we want. That is what we want. I get that piece about what success means to us. You know, it's rarely about money. It's the satisfaction of knowing that our story is touching people's hearts. That's what's so important. So, Babs, as we come to the close of our podcast, I have a 10 in 10 for you. I'm going to ask you 10 questions in very quick succession, and I'm going to ask you to answer them as quickly as you possibly can. These are questions about the way you write. So sometimes when I'm doing these interviews, I ask people to think as a reader, but we've already explored most of those questions with you at the early part of this podcast. So I'm going to ask you to give me answers to these questions based on your author hat on. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Let's go. Plot first or character first?
Plot first.
Thank you. Writing by hand or typing?
Writing by hand.
Outlining or plotter in brackets, or winging it, pantser in brackets?
I'm a plotter.
Writing in silence or with background noise?
Absolute silence. I edit to country music, but I write in silence.
Morning writing or late night writing?
Morning.
One project at a time or multiple at once?
Multiple at once.
First draft fast and messy or slow and polished?
Fast and messy.
Writing alone or in a cafe or public space?
Alone most of the time. I would love to write in a cafe, but I just don't get out to them very often.
Feedback early or only when finished?
Early.
Short chapters or long chapters?
Mine are all over the place. Some are short, some are long. I have chapters that are 700 words and others that are 4,000.
Writing from personal experience or pure imagination?
Personal experience.
Dialogue heavy or description heavy?
Description. I won't say heavy, but it leads the way.
Brilliant. Babs Rudlin, it has been an honour, a privilege and a pleasure to have you on the Mrs. Wright podcast. I am so happy. The great news is we're connected on all of the different social media platforms, and anybody who wants to follow Babs, you'll find all of her contact details for her socials and her website in the bio for this podcast. So I am going to look forward to watching your journey as it unfolds, and to the publication date of the 30th of July for Finding Wildfire, but you're open for ARCs now. Thank you so much for joining us on the Mrs. Wright podcast. Bye, Babs.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Tap, 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 she's lining up a scene. Coffee cup, cat's tail, dancing in the steam. Every little click spins a brand new theme. Mrs. Wright, that's right.